Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yeah.
You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show till Mets do us part. John from Brooklyn, Ibby reps NJ. We're the other team, I don't care what your friends say. Mets fans, we focus like a sensei. Listen to the podcast Monday, Wednesday. Made a couple bad plays, but we still won. Character, yup, we're gonna build some. Are you gonna check the pod? Is real fun. Just like Mookie, I will, son. So invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show.
Available now on all streaming platforms. If you love the New York Mets, check out Till Mets Do Us Part. Enough rapping. Let's get to gabbing.
What is up, everyone? Good to see everyone here live on a Wednesday. Matt Ibanez here, a.k.a. Ibby. Till Mets Do Us Part. Checking in with you once again live on a Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. And as you can see, flying solo today. We mentioned it last week. John wasn't going to be here because he is out all the way in Dubai for Monster Jam. So it's just me this week talking Mets with you, as I do every single Wednesday, because it's the team that we love, and there's always something to talk about. And I know it's a little bit odd to be going on at the same time during a game. I know the rain delay kind of pushed things back, so we're starting the same exact time that the game is. But I got the game on over here. I have it going, and I'll be mentioning things along the way of merit. But, of course, I wanted to get a lot of things off of my chest when it comes to this team overall, and at the same time engage with each and every one of you like I love doing, because the chat is always fun and you add so much to the conversation. Those of you that are here, we got about 40 people in here right now. I'm sure it's going to fill up as the show goes on. If you're here for the first time, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video. It goes a long way in helping us grow. We're just at about 760 subscribers, I think we're at. We're on our way towards 800. So you can subscribe to the channel and like the video. It goes a long way with us trying to reach said goals. But we have to get our hellos out of the way first, and I can see some of the normals are in here, the regulars, which I love seeing. Patty in NYC, PB, say hello to everybody. Good to see you, Patty. Steph G's in the house. Good to see you. I know she's all the way in London because she's out there for the Mets and Phillies game this weekend. So I hope you're going to have a great time out there and enjoy the sights. Steph, it's always a pleasure when you're here for the show. We got Brad here as well saying LGM. Got Darren Rivera in here. It's always good to see him. Junior Swingman's in here. Love seeing everyone. We got Carlos. Carlos is in the house as well saying, what's up? Good to see you guys. Jeff Cohen's here. All the usuals, which I love interacting with each and every time. We got JD. JD's in the house as well. And, of course, the media goon himself, Keith Blacknick. What's Keith got for me? Doesn't matter if the game is on. I'll make it easy. Mets have lead until the 8th inning, and then they'll lose by 1 run. Hey, this team won a game last night. Even though Reed Garrett did his best to make us sweat it out, they did win the game last night, 6-3, and they've actually taken a series for the first time in like a month. So either way, a little bit more positive when it comes to our Mets at the start of June, which we all know tends to swoon. But hopefully that's not the case. But we'll talk more about June in general in the second half of the show, because I do have – oh, wait a minute. What? Hold on, people. I just got a little bit of a pop in here. I had a whole show laid out, and I got some guy here trying to get into my show wearing what looks to be a Hawaiian shirt. I don't know who it is. Maybe it's Captain Lou Albano. Keith will probably be the one who gets that. But we got a guest, and it's a little bit throwing me off, but we'll make it work. So let's pop him in. Let's see. Let's say hello.
What's going on, everybody?
Who is this guy? Now I gotta switch everything up. Look, now I gotta give the show back to the true host. Let him come in, say what he wants.
No,
hey, how you doing?
No.
How you doing?
I did not mean to derail the show. but I didn't expect to be up at this time. It is 1:45 in the morning here in Abu Dhabi, and I figured I would just, pop in and see what's going on. I was listening to a little bit of the show on my way in, so I figured I would come on in since I'm awake. I'm awake and I'm here, man.
2:00 in the morning, and John Saponaro still has time for us, which is awesome. And if you're following
right.
John, he's posting a lot of cool stuff when it comes to riding around in sand dunes, it looks like, and he's sliding down hills. And
Yes.
But
Yes.
let's not forget, even though he's on the other side of the world and it's 2:00 in the morning, he still finds time to get to a Twitter war with Sean Marash. But that's neither here nor there. Let's not step it up. That's neither here nor there. We do have a lot to talk about when it comes to the show. John, do you plan on being here for the show?
Yeah, I will be here. I will be here. Let's do the damn show. Why not?
Let's do this. All right.
Just by the way, for everybody, I completely surprised Ibby. He had no idea I was going to do this. He had no idea. I wasn't 100% sure I was going to do this either. So I hope you can hear me okay. I'm on hotel Wi-Fi. Yeah. I've got my AirPods on, so I hope I don't sound weird. Yeah, exactly. So I did not tell him I was going to do this because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to. But as it turns out, we were out all day. We went from Dubai to Abu Dhabi. Nobody cares about that, but that's what happened. And we're out all day. And all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? I think I might make it to the hotel, the other hotel. We left one. And I was like, I think I might make it in time to do the show. So I'm a little tired. But I think I can do it, Ibby.
Hey, we'll take you for as long as you get it. Of course, Keith has to come in saying hotel Wi-Fi is greater than Ibby's Wi-Fi. Thanks a lot, Keith. I really appreciate it, even though that is a true statement. Having said all of that, I had this whole thing planned out, and I know I gotta get it proper. Okay, here we go. Let's get the ticker up. Okay, get that going first. And first things first, we have to talk about the month of May. I know we're in June, and we're trying to look past, and the Mets are playing some decent baseball for the first handful of games of June. But the month of May was brutal. And I'm going to bring something up real quick so we can all see it. The month of May had it where the Mets played 28 games. They were 9-19, 8 hits per game. They only had 3 extra base hits per game. They had 28 home runs. And they had a 675 OPS. Now, I'm going to let these numbers sit for one more minute because that's really bad, guys. 28 home runs, basically a homer a game, 9-19 record, 675 OPS. Far from ideal. And we're going to talk more about the good and all the positive that came out of, the end of May going into June and what we've seen the last couple of days. Granted, it is the Nationals, but still, we like progress nonetheless. But, John, when you see those numbers, and you saw what May was, and that's usually what we tend to see in June when it comes to this team, and now we're entering June, how does that make you feel based off of, what had happened in May and what you think could come in May based off of the schedule?
I mean, look, it's not good, right? Like May was not good. You're right. Last couple of years, we're used to seeing the June swoon from the Mets, and it came a little early. Christmas came early this year, not in a good way. It was terrible. But I don't have the stats in front of me. I do know that the Mets now go on a run where they face a ton of losing teams. The Mets have had a stronger strength of schedule through the month of May than a lot of other teams, and now they're hitting the quote-unquote soft part of their schedule. Now, look, when you're playing as bad as the Mets were playing in the month of May, it's hard to say that anybody is a soft spot on your schedule. Hell, the Mets are a soft spot on other people's schedules. But I don't think that you can discredit that or take away from the fact that that means something. It's kind of what I tweeted out earlier today. I took, I think it was Jolly Olive's tweet and kind of reposted it with the, don't you want to watch meaningful baseball? Like more teams should be trying. And a lot of people got what I was trying to say with the positivity. Some people didn't. They're like, oh, well, if you're not going to win a World Series, you might as well tear the whole thing down. I think that there's a problem in Major League Baseball in general where people are, too many teams operate as if everything is like, if it's not going to be perfect, well, then we won't even try. And I think a lot of that has to do with the luxury tax, which is not really a conversation for now. But I'm just sitting here saying, I don't care if the Mets are 9 games under 500, 9 games over 500, 90 games under 500. If they're only 3 or 4 games out in the wild card, then I'm rooting for them to stay in that race, because it is still only, well, for me, it's June 6th. For you, it's June 5th.
Right.
But it's still early June. And so the Mets are still in a position with a lot of baseball in front of them. And I cited the example of the D-backs from last year, and I know that's the anomaly kind of run. Teams don't do that every year. But the D-backs had a stretch midsummer where they were 16-34. They were the worst. That was the worst stretch for a team who had ever, gone through something like that and then won the pennant. They also had a negative run differential for the entire season. Nobody expected them to be where they were, and yet they were there. Do I think the Mets, we talked about it last week. I mean, I said how disappointed I was. And I said, look, just enjoy your summer. Just enjoy, if you're going to London, just enjoy London. You don't have to worry about the Mets, because I didn't think that the Mets were doing anything that would inspire hope. And I stand by that. I don't think the Mets are going to go on some unbelievable run, because they haven't shown to be that kind of team. May was bad, but I also don't think they're as bad as they were in May. I think that they should be trying to win games. It's June. It's June 5th. Or like I said, for me, it's June 6th. Try to win games. Try to win games. You're 4 games out of the wild card. What does that mean? Sometimes winning is just an important thing for people to do, right? It's important for the players. It's important for the franchise. It's important for the fan base. Like, I want to see them win. Now, I'm not saying that the fans and the people listening and the people watching and you and me, we should be all in on this Mets team. I'm not saying that the organization should be all in on this Mets team. I don't think that they necessarily should be adding players, right? You're not going to sell off major prospects to add players. You're not going to do the Victor Zambrano kind of trade, right? Trade Scott Kazmir for Victor Zambrano for a team that probably wasn't going to do anything anyway. You're not going to make that kind of move. But it's not to say that as currently constituted, and maybe they get, an injection of youth, some of these younger players come up, maybe they make a move where they go out and they acquire a player who has, not just this year, or maybe the next year, maybe the year after that, something like what they did with Marcus Stroman, a situation like that where you can bring somebody in the fold who helps you now and helps you in the future. So I just think that the team right now is not as bad as they were. I don't know how good they are, but I feel more positive now than I did last week, simply because of the breaks. The breaks, sometimes you make your own breaks. Like you're far out of the division, but you're sitting there and you're saying, you know what, we've played really good baseball, and I think if we get luck to turn our way, we can really make a run. Well, the Mets are not in that position, but the Mets are in the opposite position, Ibby, where it's like, we haven't played really good baseball, yet here we are, only 4 games out of a playoff spot. Now, is that circumstantial? Absolutely. Does that speak to the fact that the National League is terrible? 100%. But it doesn't matter, because that's where the Mets are. Right now, mathematically, that's where they are.
Yeah, they just brought up a thing on SNY, and I saw it earlier, and I think it was Shay that tagged us on Twitter talking about how there are 4 teams over 500 in the AL Central. Meanwhile, there are only 4 teams over 500 in the entire NL. And I have a whole thing that I'm going to show you guys later on in the show when it comes to the June schedule. And if you want to talk about the wild card, even though I still think it's way too early to talk about the wild card, but the main thing is that, May was brutal. And I think one of the main reasons as to why May was brutal outside of that abysmal offense was when you look at the ERA here, when it comes to the bullpen. Ottavino, 9.28. Diaz, 8.68. Walker, 6.75. Reed Garrett's over 6. Jorge Lopez, no longer with the team, but over 6. You're seeing Sean Reed Foley. It starts to get a little bit better when it comes to the threes. And then Nunez at 3. Jake Diekman, even though he's had his hiccups, 2.89. And then Adrian Hauser showing he is much better suited for the bullpen as opposed to being a spot starter or a starter in general. The bullpen, and we've talked about this at length, and we can put a bow on it right here, but the fact that this bullpen was phenomenal to start the season, but it got overworked the same way it did last year. It got overworked early, and this is what ends up hurting the team. And I want to bring up a comment that I started off because it made all the sense in the world, and it was, who has it? Junior Swingman coming in saying that was bottom of the barrel defense, a shitty bullpen, runners in scoring position, allergies killed the Mets in May. And that in a nutshell, is exactly what happened to this team. Now, there were some positives that came out of it, which I'll get into in a minute. But, specifically when it comes to the likes of changing the lineup, Lindor in the leadoff spot, Mark Vientos getting, full run. Like there are some good things here on top of Harrison Bader and Starling Marte. Like there are positives that are coming out of the offense. It's the pitching that's really killing us. But the one thing I wanted to say, and I'm even happy that you are here, that we can talk about this, because I said this to you at the start of either our bold prediction show or our season preview show, whichever one it was. I said that I am not grading David Stearns based off of this offseason. I said to you, I am grading David Stearns when it's time to make decisions and go against something he thought would work. And will he be able to, let his ego go aside, unlike Billy Epler, and not double down and say, nope, sticking with this. It's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. It has to. This is, it says it's going to work. And to this point, accountability is being held by both Mendoza and Stearns when it comes to the best players are going to play. When they are sitting Jeff McNeil, even though they say, hey, it's our second baseman, he's not hitting. All right. So it doesn't matter. He's benched. Okay. We're going to cut guys. We're going to DFA guys where it doesn't fit what we think is proper for the organization from a playing standpoint or from an overall view standpoint with the whole Jorge Lopez thing. So holding players accountable, holding the team accountable goes a long way in establishing things that can be better. Let's be honest. May in general was an absolute shit show. It was hard to watch. It was terrible. Now, I still think that it's going to be hard to fully get back into this thing because of what May did, kind of like how June was last year for this team. It kind of makes it that much harder to get back into it. But
the one thing I'll say,
see better baseball. Again.
The one thing I'll say about that is that when you have the breakdown in June, you are by definition closer to the trading deadline and closer to the end of the season already, where you could say, we've got to make our decision. You have that downswing in May. Now, I'm not expecting the Mets to make up all the ground that they lost in May and June. I think that's going to be a little bit too tall of a task. Yeah. But mathematically, you could, right? If the Mets ever do that, well, you swing the pendulum back dramatically in the other direction. And again, I'm not saying then you turn around and you go all in on this team, you start acquiring people like crazy at the deadline. I'm just saying when the downturn comes in June, you can look back if you're Stearns or if you're the GM, whoever, and you're like, man, you know what? We're knocking on the door of this trade deadline. We're just about a month out. I can maybe get some better returns if I start selling a little earlier and, start giving away some of these pieces a little earlier, give, an extra start or two to a starting pitcher that's going to go to a contender, whatever. You're not going to really make moves in May unless you're the Marlins, who were so bad, or the White Sox, and the White Sox didn't really do it. But if you're a team that, loses their first 15 games and is, 5-30, then, you might make a trade in May, a significant one. But, if you're where the Mets are, if you're middling, if you're sitting there and you're 4 games out, you're not going to tear the thing down. So that's the one thing that I think you could say is almost I don't know if you could say a saving grace or a blessing in disguise or some form of that. But the fact that it happened in May, well, now let's see. The schedule does soften up, like I said, and maybe the Mets can get right in June. And maybe if the Mets are getting right in June, then maybe we feel a little bit better a month from now. Because there are some encouraging signs. Like you said, there are some not so great signs. The pitching's not been good. The bullpen looks like it's a little beleaguered and worn out. Plus, Diaz goes down, Raley goes down. All of a sudden, the other guys step up, and they've not been good at all. But now the offense is kind of turning it around. The changes they made to the lineup has paid some dividends. Lindor has been on absolute tear since they put him in the leadoff spot. Benching Jeff McNeil, hallelujah on that one. And they're going to get Alvarez back. They're going to get Alvarez back probably as soon as they get back from London. So I think when you look at all of that, what a difference a week makes. I think there are encouraging signs to, at least for us to sit there, all of us as fans, and say, you know what? It's early June. Let's just hope for the best. Let's hope that we can watch more meaningful baseball, and we're not going to have to watch the likes of, Jonathan Arauz like we did for half the summer last year.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing that we want the most. We want to be able to sit there during our summers or what have you, and just be able to sit down on the couch or go to the stadium and just watch some good baseball. That's the main thing that we want to do. And before we go into the lineup, because I'm going to go based off of the rundown that I have. Before we go into the lineup, I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to put my feelings out there relatively quickly. And I made it a part of the thumbnail this week where it was a huge talking point because they lost that game to, I think it was Arizona on that Sunday game. They lose the Arizona game, and then they're on their way to Washington. They're on the bus. They take that picture. It gets posted, and of course, it becomes an entire thing. Look, I'm with you. It becomes an entire thing, and people are dissecting it and this and that. And look, I pulled some funny things out of it. The Jeff McNeil, like, peering over. Like, there's some funny things that you can pull from it. But I know a lot of people looked at that picture and said, oh, look who's sitting with who. Some are smiling, some are not. Look, some are over here, what have you, and making a big deal out of it. But to me, I never felt that it was the end-all, be-all in terms of, painting an overall picture of negativity or what have you. Again, guys are going to take pictures. Guys are going to enjoy each other's company. I wish I could credit whoever said it, but I thought a good point that was made was, a lot of these guys probably realize this might be the only time that they're going to be traveling with each other because they're all on 1-year deals. It's the one time they're going to be with each other on a team. Maybe they're going to go elsewhere. So you want to have those memories. And look, I don't have a problem with that. And this comes back to the conversation we always had, like, guys are human. You lost the game. We get it that we're pissed off as fans, or some people take it above and beyond to be angry about it. But I never looked too deep into it, and I never thought that it needed to be a talking point. But you knew it was going to be a talking point because they were coming off of a very ugly loss. So your thoughts on said picture?
I mean, let me put it to you this way. Do you ever have a bad day at work?
Plenty.
Right? I do.
Yeah,
I know everybody in the comments, everybody, we have bad days at work, right?
Yeah.
And let me use myself as an example, because I don't want to put you on the spot. And also because there is a more direct correlation in the example I'm going to give. Right now, I'm traveling for work. I travel for work all the time. Now, I don't necessarily travel with people I work with, but we all travel, and get to the same place. So sometimes we're on the same flights, whatever the case may be. But after work is done, and we work in live events, so the stakes are not the same because we're not a team. We don't have a win and loss record, but we are judged by what we do every night. Every night we have to be good. Every time we put on a show, we have to be good. We're not always going to be at our best. We try to be at our best every single time. And sometimes, though, we might be at a place in a venue. Let's just use this weekend, Abu Dhabi, Etihad Arena, coming up in 2 days, Saturday night. Maybe we don't do a good job. And maybe the only thing we can do as a group, as a team, is leave the venue, leave the arena, the stadium, go to a place, eat dinner together, have some laughs, have some fun. Now, what if we're still wearing our uniforms? I have to wear a uniform at work. The people who work behind the scenes, even though they work behind the scenes, they do have to wear a uniform. They do have to wear branded stuff. So what if we're all sitting there and we're all wearing our branded stuff and we're laughing and we're having a good time in a restaurant, and somebody walks in who was at the show and they see it and they go, these guys having a good time that was the worst show I've ever seen. We're not human beings. We're not allowed to go to a restaurant and say, you know what? It's like one of those things of, like, maybe not this extreme, but like, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. You know what I mean? Like that adage. Yeah. So we're not allowed to go to a restaurant after having a bad day at work and have a good time. And people might see us because maybe the restaurant's across the street from the arena. So maybe people in the audience are going to come to the same restaurant and see us having a good time. Why do we not deserve to have that? Of course we do. So how is it any different? It's not. The Mets are a team that is made up of a collection of individuals that are human beings. They don't want to be doing badly, but sometimes they're going to do badly. And when they are together afterward, they have to put that game behind them. Baseball happens every single day. You cannot dwell on it the next day. You have to put it behind you. So if you get on the bus and you want to take a silly selfie, or you want to play a stupid game with the social media team the next day when you start coming in, like, these are things that human beings do. I don't understand, and I'm not blaming you, but I don't understand why we have to just have this conversation every time a team does something that just
Normal.
Everybody would do.
Yeah.
Everyone will do that. Every single person who works, has ever worked, like, you're going to do that. If you have a bad day, you're going to go out and you're going to be like, I need to forget about it. I need to put that behind me. So I don't understand how this becomes a talking point. It becomes a talking point because idiots don't want to see the idiots want this to be MLB The Show. Yeah, like, I mean, Ant's saying this, baseball players are humans. I thought they were just baseball players. Exactly. Yeah. Now, when you have a certain job, sometimes you are very defined by your job, i.e. a professional baseball player, but it is not the definition of who you are as a person. Like, my girlfriend has even said that about me and my job. She's like, your job is cooler than mine, but it's still just your job. It's still just what you do. It's not you. Yeah. It's a part of you, but it's not you. It's the same thing for a baseball player. So, like, Ant bringing that up is so spot on. I just don't understand how people can get up in arms over people having a bad day at work and then wanting to laugh about it with their friends and their coworkers afterward.
Yeah, it's wild because this isn't the first time we've talked about this on this show, because I always go back to the well when I always say, like, you always laugh at me when I bring it up, but like that scene in the movie Fever Pitch where they go to the bar and they see, the Sox just lost a huge game in the playoffs, and they see, Trot Nixon and Varitek, they're eating dinner and they're laughing, they're smiling, and then like they're sitting at the bar making fun of them because they're angry. Like, those guys are having a meal and having a good time. Meanwhile, I'm over here drowning my sorrows away. It's like, well, they can still live their lives. And the crazy thing about it is you do things like that to, like you said, laugh as opposed to cry, to try and loosen things up. So then when you go out to work the next day, you can have a better day. So it's like you're doing something to better yourself moving forward, but you get ridiculed because you're not basically, stewing in the loss. You are not, in the cage that moment, working on something. Like, you're not the machine that fans think that you are, because they are so overly invested into a team. And that's again, it's an argument that neither one of us can ever win, because people are always going to be lost in their feelings and their thoughts on this, and they're going to think a certain way. It's like, no, they get paid millions, they got to do this, this, and this. I just wanted to bring it up because it was a talking point. A lot of people were talking about it, so I figured we throw our 2 cents on it and then move forward.
I do want to jump into the comments here for a couple good ones. From Stephanie, who I think just got to London, by the way, so she's on a crazy time zone like I am.
Yeah.
It's the all-consuming fans who don't look at players as human beings. They look at them as a product. I think that is a very good way of
entertainment.
They look at the players as something that's not human, and they look at sport as, like, the whole thing is just a nebulous mass of entertainment, and it doesn't matter the people who are actually making the thing happen. And then you have Keith saying, have a good time away from work, the field, but when you're on the work, when you're at work on the field, be serious at practice and game time. And I think, that's another good point, because it's like, they're on the bus, work is over, they're leaving. You know what I mean? Like, they're not laughing. And I know people get mad at this sometimes when it happens during a game. And I also don't have a huge problem with it, but I do understand a little bit more why people might, when they're like, oh, the Mets are losing 6-0. Why is Lindor joking around with the shortstop on the other team? Like, again, they could be friends, but I understand how that might create a little bit more of an issue, because to Keith's point, you're at work actively. You should be trying to win this game. Let's not be joking around as much. So, but this is a case where they're on the bus. Work's over. They're not getting paid to be on the bus. You can't hit a home run on the bus. You can't win the game on the bus. It's over. And then this good one from Milo saying, I'd rather see a clubhouse stick together after losses than watch it crumble and all morale be lost. It's another good point. So those are 3 really good points. I think that, and we don't have to spend much time on this, but I just think that when you look at those 3 extra points on top of everything that you and I have already said, like, it really just sums up. Like, you just have to realize and take a step back, and you're like, I'm a person, they're people. What would I do? And if your answer is, I'm going to be, miserable all the time, and I'm going to try to, you're not, you wouldn't be. You wouldn't be miserable all the time if you were a baseball player and your team was losing. I promise you, you wouldn't be. No one. It's not normal to be that way. It's not healthy to be that way. You wouldn't be.
I'm with you 100% on that. And I just want to throw a couple of things out there real quick. We got 145 people in here right now. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Make sure you're liking the video. Put those thumbs up. It goes a long way in helping us grow. Like I said before, we are at about 760 subscribers. We're trying our best to make our way towards 800, then 9, then of course 1,000. Why does John look like Will Salmon in that lighting? Carson always coming in with the good one-liners.
It's because I'm backlit, and a couple times when Will's been on the show, he had some backlighting. I think that's what it is.
But before we go into the break, there is one more topic that I wanted to cover in the first half, and that was the lineup.
Sean Marash. Oh
no, I don't want to. No, I do not want to talk about Sean Marash. The fact that my partner is on the other side. Yeah, Ant coming in saying, "Forget the Mets. We want Sap versus Marash at WrestleMania 42." Look, and that's in Vegas, right? Vegas. So. This guy over
I don't know. Does the WFAN have the budget to send him to Vegas? I thought they couldn't leave the tri-state area.
This guy over here is having a fantastic time working, traveling, taking in the sights, all these things, but he's still finding time to get a tongue lashing while also giving one back to the guy who shit his pants on air. Either way, it doesn't matter. The point that we're trying to get to here on this Met-centric show is the lineup, because it has to be talked about. Obviously, before I get into the main 2 points that I wanted to get into, I wanted to give a big shout out to, obviously, Harrison Bader. I didn't include in this, or Starling Marte. Both of them have been, I want to talk about. No, we don't, Patty. We don't want to talk about Marash. We don't want to talk about Marash. We want to talk about the good things, not the stupid things. But when it comes to,
I hate to derail you. There's just so many good comments coming in. Aunt Rivera, it's when he's in transit, when John is dangerous. But
Ed, he wasn't even on the plane. He wasn't even on the plane. He wasn't even in a Delta suite.
I was in a lot of Ubers today.
He was probably in a sand. He was sliding down a sand dune while cursing off Sean Marash. Either way, the lineup, like I was trying to get to, the lineup.
Is it obnoxious to say that I was at a Michelin star restaurant?
Extremely. Oh my God! Save it for the Instagram, Saponaro. Save it for the Instagram.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'll tweet about it later. You guys.
Yeah. The lineup. Okay. I didn't get a chance to do a whole thing for Bader and Marte. Both of them have been playing very well. Marte's numbers over the last 2 weeks have been phenomenal. I know he's banged up right now. He's not in today's lineup. They put in Tyrone Taylor. They say it's a knee thing, but they say, low grade, not too worried about it. But, as fans with an older player, our ears are always perked up, especially as Mets fans. But him and Bader, I think, have been doing fantastic. Bader is one of the main guys that I trust the most when it comes to runners on base. I think he's done a great job this year. I know you've been championing for Bader the majority of the season to this point. He's been really showing out. But I had to bring up these two, and we'll talk about this first one, that being the man you mentioned before in Francisco Lindor. And just looking at the numbers, it's really wild when you break the entire thing down and how he goes to the leadoff spot. In 18 games, he's got a 311 average, an 854 OPS. He's got 6 doubles, 2 homers, and 10 RBIs. He is a completely different player than what he was to start the year. And again, we know that Lindor is a slow starter. We know it takes some time. And it happened in Cleveland too. And people don't want to admit that, but it happened in Cleveland where he started off slow and things started to pick up and progress as the season went on. But when you see those numbers, I see something that is almost an old school approach. And I know if Carson's here, he's not going to want to hear that. But when I look at it, I say, when Lindor was batting 3, I felt like he thought that, or he was actually trying to do things that he wasn't meant to do. Like, he's not the prototypical, overpowering power hitter like Pete is. His job is to, slap the ball around, put it in play, doubles hitter. He can still hit 30 home runs. I'm not saying he's not Jeff McNeil, but the whole point is when he moves off of that spot, it's almost as if the pressure was lifted, which is weird to say because the number 1 hitter in today's game is often seen as someone that could be, Kyle Schwarber, Aaron Judge. Like, you're still seeing like bigger end hitters with big time power batting 1 because you want that guy to get the most at bats. But for Lindor, it's almost coming across as if he feels a lot more at ease. He's not white knuckling. He's up there just doing his job. And then, if he wants to run, he can run. He can do these things. It's wild to see what one or two spots in the lineup can do for the psyche on a player. And like I said, it's almost borderline weird because he's getting more at bats as opposed to lesser being 1 versus 3 or even 2. And he's doing better. I think, and again, we know we don't like saying give time because people are impatient, but the time that he needed, it finally feels like he's comfortable. And now we're starting to get the Lindor that we were expecting to see at the start of the season. We wish it started sooner, but at least it's here.
I think something that people take for granted, and I do this sometimes too. They always talk about bullpens, and they say that, relief pitchers like to know what their role is going to be. They like to know when they're going to come into a game because they like to have an idea on how to prepare for that role. So if a guy's a 7th or 8th inning guy, he knows he doesn't really need to get ready in the 4th inning to come in if a starter, goes out early. So I think the thing that a lot of people miss is you have players, position players, everyday players who might feel that way about where they hit in the lineup. You might just have a guy who says, I just feel like my game works really well out of the 1 spot or the 6th spot or whatever. And it doesn't really matter where the league is going, where the sport is trending, right? Because you mentioned, you've got big time power guys, 40 home run, 50 home run bats, Kyle Schwarber, Aaron Judge hitting at the top of lineups. Lindor is certainly not that. But I don't think he's looking at that and saying, I need to be that because there's a couple of guys who fit that role. I think he looks at it personally and just says, to your point, I'm a contact gap-to-gap guy with some power who can steal some bases, and it fits the mold of what he wants to do, how he views himself as a baseball player to hit in the 1 spot. Because now you look at it, he was productive his whole career in Cleveland hitting in the 1 spot. He was terrific for Team Puerto Rico hitting in the 1 spot, and some of his best numbers of his career. Now, he's had good numbers elsewhere with the Mets. He's had great numbers elsewhere with Cleveland as well. But I think that you look at this and it's just he's a guy who wants to be in that spot because he personally feels he does well in that spot or it contributes to his game in whatever, not everything is scientific. I know a lot of things boil down to, the numbers and what the numbers say and exit velocity and batting average on balls in play. And everything is stats. I get that. But sometimes there's just not a good scientific answer for it. If the guy wants to hit 1, let him hit 1. If he's going to produce like this, he should hit 1 forever. It's that simple.
And I think lineup construction goes a long way in terms of the personnel that you have. And I know that Carlos was just in the comments saying how, it's not weird. We knew this before we acquired him. He was his best at hitting leadoff for Cleveland and Puerto Rico, and we stuck him at 3rd. But again, that comes down to how you build a team and what you're going to expect out of players. Because I remember, it was a different game back in the early 2000s and how it was viewed. But I remember a lot of people always saying how, why is Carlos Beltran batting 3 or 4? Like Carlos Beltran should be batting 1 or 2. Because at that point, they thought he should have been a little bit higher in line because that's what he was doing and succeeding at when he was in Kansas City, as well as Houston. So he comes here and they're like, especially that first year where he was struggling, they're like, oh, you got to move him. But they kept on saying, nope, he's got to be a 3 hitter. He's our power. This is what it has to be. And when you lacked power, like this team has, that's why Lindor gets stuck into that 3 spot and saying, hey, we know you have 30-plus home run power in you, so we're going to have you bat 3 to try and drive in some runs too. And I think now that we're finally moved off of that and saying, hey, look, just go be you. Go bat leadoff, be you. Now, the thing that sucks about it, it's not even about Lindor. It's about how it affects others. And I know Keith talked about on Shane Sons on Monday, talking about how, you almost, you cut your nose off to spite your face in a sense, because yes, Lindor is thriving at 1, but Brandon Nimmo, on the other hand, not doing so hot out of the 3 spot, striking out a ton. But again, Nimmo does have his spurts throughout seasons where he goes ice cold and then he comes back and things get proper and like it all evens out in the end. But it does suck to see that, Brendan Nimmo would thrive at 1. Now we move him to 3, and now it's just kind of not working. You're still trying to find a way to get this entire lineup to work all at once, which we still haven't gotten to this point. But your thoughts on, Lindor being one, but at the cost of Brendan Nimmo providing for us, at least in the meantime.
It is the trickle-down effect. I mean, Patty just said this as you were saying it. Nimmo is finally feeling batting third. Every move, every change affects the players. I think Nimmo is starting to heat up a bit. Look, I think here's the thing. Sometimes, and people aren't going to like this, but because Nimmo is, a star on this team or a major cog of this team, right. But I think you have to defer to your best players. Lindor is the best player on the team. It just is what it is. He's the best overall player on the team right now. He's the highest paid player. I think you have to sometimes defer to that guy, even over other people who are here for the long haul, like Nimmo is, and stuff like that. I think that's part of it. The other part of it, I think, is a little bit more simpler and realistic, which is Lindor has a lot of experience batting first. He has a lot of experience batting second, and a lot of experience batting third. Even Pete Alonso has a lot of experience hitting third and fourth, and a lot of experience hitting second. Nimmo doesn't have a tremendous amount of experience hitting third yet. Mm-hmm. So I think he needs to kind of grow into that role and learn what that means for him. Now, eventually, something might have to give, right? Rubber might meet road for Lindor and Nimmo, and you might have to move things around, like Carlos Ramos kind of saying here, Nimmo needs to hit second. Maybe that's the move, right? More of that comment I'll get to in a minute, but just as I was saying, I was about to say it, so I wanted to give Carlos the credit there. Maybe Nimmo is a two-hitter. Maybe that's how this lineup functions best. Maybe it's not. Maybe if Pete Alonso gets traded or doesn't get re-signed like some people want, maybe Nimmo does hit second. Maybe with a deeper lineup and a different constructed lineup and a healthy Alvarez, maybe Pete doesn't need to hit 2. Maybe he can go back to hitting fourth or third or whatever the case may be. And then you open up that spot for Nimmo. So I think a lot of this stuff is fluid and it kind of happens as it happens. But right now, you had an offense that was struggling severely. Nimmo was okay. He wasn't doing great in that spot, the leadoff spot, that is. He was doing okay. He was doing some Nimmo things, but he wasn't having a typical Nimmo year. So it's not like you really upset the apple cart there. And again, the offense as a whole was really bad. So you take Lindor and you put him in the spot where he's been most productive in his career in the leadoff spot. You take Alonso, you put him in the spot where he's been most productive in his career in the 2 spot at the sacrifice of a guy like Nimmo, because you also say, hey, you know what? Nimmo's leading this team in RBIs, despite the fact that he's batting 1. So maybe we put him down to 3. Now we have legit protection for Nimmo. We have JD Martinez. He goes to the 4. So the thing, I guess, that I'm trying to say in a roundabout way is that the logic across all of it is sound. And you can't fault the logic. It's the same way you talked about David Stearns being quick on the trigger and having a merit-based, system where it's like, look, if you're not playing well, you're out. If you're not playing well, you're benched. You're going to get DFA'd. If you don't represent the Mets in a way that's healthy, you're cut, Jorge Lopez, things like that. So you can't fault a GM and a team for acting decisively and basing things off of merit. Well, to that same end, you can't fault a GM and a coach and a manager and all these people for acting intelligently and following logic to build out a roster or to set a lineup. And right now, again, it may not be everybody's cup of tea to have Alonso hitting second. They don't like power hitters in that spot. That's fine. But based on how modern baseball teams are built, that is something that works. And it's something that has worked for Alonso in the past. So what they're doing is they're taking modern logic across baseball, and they're taking the logic of what's worked for their own players to try to put them in the best position to succeed. So right now, you can't fault the logic. Is it going to work? Is it going to stick? I'm not sure, but it's working right now.
Speaking of things that are working right now, how's that for a segue? Speaking of things that are working right now, how about we talk about the man that has been a talking point all offseason when it came to third base, and that's the one Mark Vientos. Brett Beatty's been sent down. He is no longer here. We'll see him when we see him. But Mark Vientos deserves a lot of credit. And we got Cody Hall coming here saying, all apologies to the Vientos lovers. I am truly shocked that he's put it all together, stopped the strikeouts, and he's actually hitting the high fastball. Shocked. And look, there was a great article put out on The Athletic this morning about Mark Vientos and some of the things that he's been taking to heart, and the simple thing that was said to him by Bryce Harper when he was on first base. And, Harper said to him, "Hey man, you got a lot of power, don't swing as hard." And he's taken that to heart, and he says, "Look, I'm getting through the zone a little bit quicker. I'm not swinging as hard as I normally was. I'm not overcompensating. I'm squaring the ball up more. I'm getting more barrels." Like, all of those things, once you get comfortable, the game is very fast. And I said when Beatty had his 2 weeks of shine at the beginning of the year, I said the big thing was confidence. And I'm seeing the same thing here for Vientos. And I hope this is much longer standing than what Beatty's was, which ended up being fleeting. But when it comes to Mark Vientos, which is, again, a man on fire, ever since he got the call up, 15 games, small sample size, but a 327 average, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs, and OPS of 1,041. Look, he is a different type of hitter than Brett Beatty. And when I say different, I mean he's a better hitter than Brett Beatty, because he's showing power. He's pulling the ball. He's putting the ball over the fence. He gets up there. I know damage can be done when he's at the plate. And I love the fact that he's playing with confidence. And shout out to him. Was it last night? It might have been last night's game or 2 nights ago. I can't remember. But he made a fantastic the diving play at third. Like, he makes a fantastic play, gets up, fires it over to first. They get the call. They get the call right. All of it. And it's awesome to see, because this is a guy that has been really moved around a lot, whether it was been warranted or not. Guy, it's a walk-off home run. You saw the energy when he hit that walk-off at City, and then he gets sent down. Like, having to deal with the mentals of this entire thing. And now he gets his shot, and he's taking full advantage of it. He looks like he belongs. It's great to see. And the numbers don't lie, my friend.
And look, I'm not going to sit here and say I always knew A, B, C, or D, or whatever. I can't pat myself on the back for that, because I'm not sure still to this day if Vientos is a long-term major league third baseman. But what I am going to give myself credit for, Ibby, is that I said at the beginning of the season, when he got sent down and everybody was angry, I said it was better for him to get sent down and go and play third base every day, or at the very least play a position in the field every day, because the Mets were probably going to need him more at third base than they were going to need him at DH, barring an injury or something like that. Because, everybody who listens, everybody who watches knows I don't have a tremendous amount of faith in Brett Beatty. I have always said that I thought Vientos was a better profiled hitter than Brett Beatty. And so, some of the stuff is surprising, because do I think, and again, it is a small sample size, but do I think that Vientos is a 320 hitter with power? No, because if he's a 320 hitter with power for his career, then he's Albert Pujols. So I don't think he's that, right? I don't think Mark Vientos is Miguel Cabrera. Right. But do I think that what he is doing is legitimate? I do. I don't think those numbers are all going to stay where they are, but I think that he is a guy who can hit for a good amount of power with a better average than people are used to seeing from guys with power like him, right? Yeah. I mean, I think Vientos could be the kind of player who hits 270 with 30-something home runs. And that would be, in today's baseball, an unbelievable kind of, accomplishment. The other thing is the defense. This is why you need to send guys down and put them in positions to try to succeed as best as they can, because you learn things about yourself through that kind of adversity. Was it fair that he was sent down? I don't know, but he learned things about himself. He learned toughness. He learned, I've got to show up and show out every time I get this opportunity now, because the writing is on the wall for guys like him and Beatty. There's a new crop of young and sexy prospects for fans and the team to all get excited about. So he knew he was going to have to do it. And I'm not saying he didn't work hard before. I'm not trying to insinuate that. I'm just saying he gets sent down, and it's like, you think I'm not that smart. I'm not the only person in the world that said you're going to have to go down and play third base because we might need you at third base. You don't think that's a conversation that the Mets had with him of Mark, listen, we're sending you down. Get down there and work on this. And he clearly has. Again, I don't think he's going to win a Gold Glove, and I'm not sure that even long-term he is going to be an everyday third baseman, but he doesn't have to be, because right now he's the third baseman. Right now he's hitting enough. And what I was always very confident in is that he would hit. He would hit at least for power. And I think that is going to continue. We don't know if JD Martinez is going to be on the team next year. We don't know if Brett Beatty is going to be on the team next year. We don't even know if Pete Alonso is going to be on the team next year. If Mark Vientos hits, Mark Vientos will be on the team next year. Guaranteed. I don't know if he's going to play first. I don't know if he's going to play third. I don't know if he's going to DH. It doesn't matter. I know he's going to hit, because if he hits now, he'll be on the team and he'll have that opportunity to do it. And that's the most important thing. And, for Beatty, he goes down, he hits the 2 home runs, and there's a lot of people, oh my God, Beatty this, Beatty that, Beatty this, Beatty that. Look, I know some people love Brett Beatty, and, you like him more than I do. To me, to this point, he has been the definition of a 4A player. He goes down to AAA and he dominates. He comes up to the major leagues and he's terrible. That equals a 4A player, period, full stop. I'm not rooting against him. I hope he does well. I just don't see it. I've never seen anything. He has never had a run. How many, you just had the graphic up. I mean, how many games has it been for Mark Vientos? Beatty's never looked this good ever.
I agree.
Even in his best 2-week stretch, he's never looked this good, because he's never done the combination of power, run production, average. He's OPS, slugging. He's never done that. He's never shown that. I don't care if it's 15 games or 150 games. Beatty's never done it. Vientos has done it kind of twice now.
Yeah, and I don't have the number in front of me when it comes to the total at-bats up at the major league level for Vientos, but I know Beatty is at whatever it might be, like around 600 total at-bats between last year and this year, or around that area. And I can agree with you. I haven't seen, in those 600 at-bats, I haven't seen anything that I've seen from Mark Vientos, and which I know is a lot lesser at-bats total between the two. So, yeah, everything that Vientos has shown is 10 times more that of Beatty. Now, I'm not going to anoint anything just yet, because I want to see it for a little bit longer period of time, but I'm rooting for the guy, and I want it to keep on going, and I want him to be a piece moving forward, because that helps this team, because it's legit power, and this team needs power. And another piece of that athletic article that I want to throw in real quick was the fact that last year he was striking out at a 30% clip, and right now he's striking out at around 19%. So cutting that number down like that goes a long way, shows that they also talked about how his pitch recognition has gotten a lot better. And as Carson knows, when your pitch recognition gets better, coupled with strong power, equals strong results. So seeing things like that, it shows that the Mets are, inching towards finding better players, more modern players that, it works in general for this team. And look, we'll see what happens, because, overall, I still have a lot of questions about this team as a whole, but that's not to say that we're going to sit here and just rag on the team and just speak on all negative, because there are positives. And I thought that Lindor and Vientos were huge positives that needed to be covered and given the roses, because they have been playing, fantastic baseball.
Before we head into the break, I did take this opportunity to look at it on Baseball Reference. So, yeah, Brett Beatty has 542 career at-bats, and Mark Vientos has 316 career at-bats in the major leagues. And, Ibby, look, some of the other stuff, we can talk about the advanced statistics or not, but, like, in those 542 at-bats, Beatty has 116 hits. Well, in the 316 at-bats, Mark Vientos has 73 hits. They have the exact same number of home runs, 15 each. Mark Vientos, 231 average to Brett Beatty's 214 average. The on-base percentage is slightly better. It's basically the same for Vientos. But, you look at the slugging, 325 for Brett Beatty. That's abysmal. Mark Vientos sitting at 411, approaching something that's a bit more respectable. The OPS plus 72 for Beatty, 94 for Mark Vientos. I mean, he outperforms him in every category, every single category. So, except for defense, which Beatty has made huge strides in this year. But Ibby, again, Vientos has been excellent defensively at third base. So I'm not going to sit here and dump on him.
We just got back-to-back home runs. Torrens with his second of the game, and Lindor just went deep. What a bomb. Just again, we're not going to go
Lindor's
play by
terrible,
play.
man. No,
but
Lindor is awful, man. He's terrible, terrible baseball player.
Awesome things to see, and Carson's gonna love it. But this team is just averaging what seems to be like 5+ runs, 6+ runs with Jeff McNeil not in the lineup. Speaking of Jeff McNeil not being in the lineup, before we go into the break, there is one thing that I must play for each and every one of you. It's another debut video here on Till Mets Do Us Part. It's for the man by the name of Jose Iglesias. 11 years in the bigs, journeyman player, former all-star, but takes the job away from Jeff McNeil. He is your hero. Allow him to be your hero.
I can be your hero, baby. And I'll take away Jeff McNeil pen. I will feel by you forever. My name is Jose.
First time here on Till Mets Do Us Part playing that one, so please allow Jose Iglesias to be your hero.
Ibby, that is, and I mean this as a compliment, that is deranged. That you sat down and made that. That is, I hope everything's okay at home. That is
that
not from a that is not coming from a mind that is doing well. Okay, that is
Aunt Rivera, shove with a Shay. Okay. He asked, because I know he's been the huge Jose Iglesias guy, wanted him called up for a while. He had asked, he goes, look, if you do something, you got to do like a video for Iglesias. You got to do it. And I was like, he said that, and it just sparked in my mind. I was like, I got an idea. And then, no lie, I sent it to Aunt the next day. I was like, Aunt, I got it. Here you go, buddy. And as you can see, Ant's a fan, Grammy winner right there. I like to look at it as comedy that's so bad. It reminds me of like Late Night with Conan O'Brien, where it was so run down and like it looked shitty, and that's what made it funnier.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the way I look at it, because I love that type of humor and comedy.
Rosie saying, "Dear God, Ibby's singing."
Hey,
God, that's great.
Hey, there are, I'm better in other areas. Maybe Enrique Iglesias isn't my sweet spot, but I'm decent in other areas.
I will say this. Stephanie said this earlier. I'm not used to soft-spoken John. When is he going to tell? But she means yell. I just want to remind everybody, it is 2:30 in the morning where I am, and I just got to my hotel literally when I logged on. I'm not trying to get kicked out of my hotel for screaming, so I am being a little bit more soft-spoken than normal.
Not yet. He's not going to yell. Not today.
It's not going to happen. It's not. I can't do it. I'm going to get thrown out, and then I'm going to have to sleep outside in Abu Dhabi, and I don't want to sleep outside tonight. It's not going to happen. I guess we should head into the break because we're almost at an hour, and
we'll head into the break.
Need to go to sleep.
Yeah.
All right, let's go into the break. Everybody who's watching this live, the break is very short. It's just a 30-second ad spot that we need for the audio version of this show. So there's 171 of you watching right now, whether you're watching on Twitter or YouTube. Hit the thumbs up, retweet it, whatever thing affects where you're watching, go ahead and do that. It helps out the algorithm in both places. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on so that you never miss an opportunity to know when we are going live, which is usually Wednesdays at 5:30 Eastern, which I'm finding out today is 1 a.m. in the United Arab Emirates. Excuse me. So John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez, Till Mets Do Us Part will be right back. Yo, just like that, we are back. John Saponaro, Matt Ibby, Ibanez, Tilmets Do Us Part, all courtesy of Brella Sports Network. A little different. I was not here when the show started. I surprised Ibby. I surprised everybody. I surprised myself a little bit because I am coming to you guys live from Abu Dhabi in the UAE. Matt Ibby, Ibanez holding things down back in the States, back in New Jersey. And it is nice to do this show, actually. I did not think I was going to have the opportunity. So I'm happy that everybody, kind of just received me with open arms, even though Ibby was probably going to do a better show without me, to be honest, because he usually does. So I derailed him. I wanted to surprise him. And he went with it, Ibby. So I do appreciate that. Before we get back in the conversation, I do want to talk about Jeff McNeil. We kind of teased it a little bit, some of the stuff going on there. I do want to talk about him, but let's talk about independent safes.
We will talk about independent safes, John, and let's go right over here. When it comes to independent safes, independentsafes.com are protecting homes and businesses with secure residential and commercial safes, fireproof peace of mind in every corner. Visit independentsafes.com today for security that stands strong. And I think it's very clear that John wanted that independent safes read to go in right before he talks about Jeff McNeil, because that's where he wants to lock Jeff McNeil away, because this team is scoring runs without Jeff McNeil. So if we all chip in and we get an independent safe, or even that panic room, and we lock Jeff McNeil away into it, these runs and this offense can keep thriving as he sits and waits for us to open the lock, which for many Mets fans, I don't think would end up happening.
If Jeff McNeil is locked in a safe, Jeff McNeil can't hurt you. I know that to be true. That I know is a fact. Before we talk about Jeff McNeil, quick shout out to our friends over at MANSCAPED. You can use the code TMDUP, which stands for Till Mets Do Us Part, at manscaped.com. You get 20% off and free shipping site-wide. And I'm not going to be TMI here. I'm not going to be graphic at all. I am just going to say I am very thankful for Manscaped for sending us the products that they sent us, including the very comfortable, very lightweight, very breathable mesh boxer briefs, in addition to all the things that you see there, because it has been on average about 110 degrees where I am the last couple of days, and it is better. It is better to be Manscaped. That is all I'm going to say. That is my ringing endorsement. If you're not sure, you should just take it from me. Just trust me on this one.
Make sure you're using your crop preserver, John. If it's that hot, you might need the crop preserver, aka the ball deodorant, just to make sure everything is proper for you. But I'm glad Manscaped's taking care of you.
I got it all. I got it all in my to-go case. Watch. Seriously.
For those on the audio side, John just walked away for a moment. But here he is. He's back. He's got the case. It is a nice case.
It comes in the carrying case, and I brought it with me. That's how you know. That's how you know I love it. So anyway, Manscaped, 20% off, TMDUP. Paul Revere, smooth as marbles since I've been using Manscaped. Okay. Ibby, Aunt Rivera, Subway to Shea said it earlier. The Mets are 2-0 since Jeff McNeil's not been in the lineup. I must be salivating. I'm not going to scroll up for the comments. That was it, almost verbatim. Look, the same thing with McNeil and Brett Beatty. And again, I don't get any joy out of these guys not being good. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my God, see, I told you I was right. I don't think they're that good. I wish they were good, because if McNeil was hitting 320, the Mets would have a better record. They'd probably be in a playoff position. We wouldn't have to be having the conversations that we're having. It would be better. McNeil is signed to an extension. I don't think he deserved it. I don't think he should have got it. It is what it is. He has it. So it's better if he's good. Even if you want to trade him like I do, it's better if he's good. There is no benefit to him being bad and him being benched. The Mets have to DFA him. That sucks. They have to eat money on him. That sucks. It's more money that Steve Cohen has to eat because GMs are stupid that he had before David Stearns. All of that sucks. But what doesn't suck is the fact that McNeil has not been good at all. And I understand he got a little bit more rope than some people would, and he probably has earned that. The guy does have a batting title. The guy has hit 300 for a few seasons, finished the year batting 300 over a full season is what I mean. And so I understand you're going to give him a little bit more rope. But I was ready to cut that rope 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, the start of the season. They've finally come around. And look, is Jose Iglesias the answer? No. Eventually, it'll probably be Luis Angel Acuna at some point in some way, at least in the short term, at least for the rest of the year. I don't know if he's going to be a second baseman or if he's going to be an outfielder, whatever. But the Mets are going to have options at second base, whether it's Jet Williams, whether it's Acuna, whether it's Mauricio, whatever the case may be. Jeff McNeil, if you like him, if he's your favorite player, just I'm sorry, get ready to kiss him goodbye. The Mets have too many options, Ibby, whether it be Mauricio, whether it be Jet Williams, whether it be Acuna. They have too many options at second base to continue to have Jeff McNeil be on the team, period. Even if he was doing great, I think he's a liability. But he's not, and now he's not playing every day, and he shouldn't be.
Yeah, I've been saying it for the last handful of weeks. I can't, and I've been saying it to my coworker Met fans and my own personal Met group chat and things of that nature, and our content creator group chat. Like, I can't watch it anymore. I can't watch it. I can't watch the throwing of the bat. I can't watch the hissy, pissy fits that he throws. It's like, dude, I'm done with you. Like, I don't need it. And then and it's crazy that I'm watching, someone like Jose Iglesias come in, and I feel relieved that, like I said, an 11-year, pro journeyman is giving me, hope's not the word, but just like it's a reprieve. Like, I feel like a weight's off my shoulder. I'm not gonna watch the same fucking at bat every single time, popping the ball up and throwing the bat or hitting the ground or dribbler, back to the pitcher or rolling over to second base. It's like, I'm done with it. And I am happy that Stearns says, I don't care about your contract. Like, and Mendoza too, like, I don't care about the contract. It doesn't matter. You're not performing. You're not helping the team. You're going to sit. And I think it's going to be interesting to see. And Harrison Bader just got another hit. I think it's going to be very interesting to see once this string of lefties that they've been facing, that's not always going to be the case. What's going to happen when, they rattle off, 4 righties in a row? I'm curious to see what ends up happening. Is it going to be more of a split? Or are they going to just hand the job back to Jeff for those 4 games to see if they can get him going? One thing we as Mets fans don't like hearing is, we want to give so-and-so playing time because we want to get him going. Like, we're tired of hearing that term because it never usually ends well. But, Jose Iglesias is playing good baseball. You play good baseball, you play. Simple as that.
Again, not doing play-by-play, but Bader with an RBI double, 7-0 Mets. And then Milo also saying the same thing. But look, I want people to be prepared for this. Maybe you, me, everybody, right? I want everybody to be prepared for this. Because you're right. People don't like to hear the term, we want to get that guy going.
Right.
But I think when the Mets come up on a stretch where they're facing, 3 righties in a row or, 4 righties out of 6 and, whatever. The next stretch of right-handed pitchers, starters that they face, I think you're going to see a good amount, if not an exclusive amount, of Jeff McNeil. But I do think that that's going to be it. Like, I think they gave him all this rope of like, hey, you won a batting title. You've done this. You've done that. You've done this. Look, we're doing what we can. Da-da-da-da. Now they've benched him. They're not playing him against lefties. I think when they come back and they start facing some righties, they will mix him back in. They will give him one more shot to show that he can at least be a platoon player. And then after that, that's it. If the guy can't be a platoon player, then what is he? Now, it sucks if he's on your bench, right? Like, it sucks if he's a $15 million bench player, but that's what we're coming up on. And look, Patty said this earlier. She said a lot of money left in that contract. I'm not worried about Cohen's wallet, but it stinks. Over $15 million for 3 more years. Now, look, that's not an insurmountable amount of money for Cohen, but it does affect things that you can do, right? Like, if he has to eat $15 million, like, does that mean that the Mets aren't going to get, a player like Juan Soto, let's say, right? Like, no, it's not going to come in between him getting a player of that magnitude. He's not going to let Jeff McNeil be the difference there. but it's still real money that he has to pay out. And it may hurt you somewhere else, somewhere down the line when, you want to go get another piece. And it's just like, we got to finish paying him, at least, get to that last year or something like that. So look, it's a bummer that he has been extended. I've been on record. I would have never extended him. Even if he was still good, I would have just let him play out his years through arbitration. He would have been 34 years old when it was all done. And then I would have said, thank you, Jeff. We'll see you later. We'll have a day for you or something when you retire. Like there was no point in giving him the extension that they gave him. Stephanie's saying, I still say Soto is a Yankee. Yes, I'm not saying Juan Soto. I just mean Jeff McNeil's contract is not going to get in the way of them going out, whether Jeff's on the team or they have to pay him to go away. He's not going to get in the way of Cohen going out and getting an elite player. I'm just saying, even though, yes, it's pocket change for Cohen, and yes, Cohen has that money in his ashtray, I agree to all of that, but I'm just saying that money adds up, and it sucks when you have just these complete sunk costs. He's just going to get out of some sunk costs, right? Robinson Cano and Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. The Mets are paying those guys. They're just about James McCann. They're about to get out from underneath those guys. And now it looks like they're going to be saddled with another, $15 million or $10 million if they pay to trade him somewhere. Like, it sucks. Like, no team is going to take this version of Jeff McNeil for $15 million a year.
No, and what we all thought was an easy, movable contract. It would be easy if he was playing like the way he was supposed to play, but it just seems like that's not in the cards.
I mean, he's got to hit
anymore.
At least 270, 280 for that contract to be movable. If he's hitting 250, 230,
it's not worth
impossible.
it for anybody.
You're gonna have to get that contract down to I would say it'd be probably $4 or $5 million a year, maybe more.
Yeah, and that's still a healthy amount of change that you got to pay. And again, sunk cost is one thing. You don't want to make it the norm. Like you want to do that when it's like, let's just get out of this, and it's what's best, and I'll eat the money. Like you do that every once in a while, that's fine. And I think Cohen's getting an idea of how you have to build things from within, and you can't just buy every single thing, and you can't just throw money around like that because it can come back and bite you, and relatively quickly. And it has in some instances so far, and that's why he's eating the money that he has. But hopefully moving forward, Stearns can right the ship in that sense where it's not happening as much as it has to this point.
And that's why even I keep lumping these two players together. But like McNeil's been bad, Marte's been good. But I keep saying the best thing you can do is have these players be good enough to trade them. The Mets don't really need to have Starling Marte on the team right now. The Mets don't really need to have Starling Marte on the team next year, especially. They need to start opening up roster spots. Tyrone Taylor, I know he had the triple today. I know he's done some good things. He's not great, but I think if he played as much as Marte played, I mean, I said it in our bold predictions, I thought he was going to have a better season than Marte. You look at what Bader's done. Bader deserves to play basically every day. This kind of weird quasi platoon that was going on with Bader. I mean, his defense alone allows you to put him out there basically against anybody, but he's been clutch. He's hit some home runs. He's hit some extra base hits. He's got the sac fly and the double today. He's drove in runs. Like, Bader should be playing more often than not. So you're going to play Bader. You're going to play Nimmo. And then after that, I think you can get by with the platoon of Taylor and DJ Stewart for now in right field. I think DJ Stewart and Taylor are going to give you the offensive production that Marte's giving you, even though Marte's been good. And you know what? Marte's been so bad defensively that I'd rather have DJ Stewart out there, and Taylor is a better defensive player than Marte today. So that one's not even close.
And speaking of defense, we are going to be getting some help in that department relatively soon, like you mentioned before. Francisco Alvarez is going to be coming back. We didn't get a chance to talk about him last week. The only thing I wanted to bring up this week was obviously he was a part of a no-hitter last night, catching one in Brooklyn, a combined no-hitter. So that's awesome to see for the Cyclones. And, him coming back is definitely going to be a big jolt for this lineup in general, adding that power bat and just the overall vibes that he brings. But what I'm most excited about is his defense. Him calling a game, him being back there. It's been a completely different type of team pre and post injury for the Mets when it comes to Francisco Alvarez. When he was here, you liked what you were seeing from the pitchers. The games just seemed to be a little bit sharper. His defense in general really stuck out. Whereas, Omar Narvaez, no longer here, thank God. Don't got to watch him play defense anymore because it was painful watching him trying to frame. But being able to have Francisco Alvarez back overall as a player, I think is going to provide a lot for this team. Is it going to push them over the top to higher and higher things? Maybe. We'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath on that, but I'm just excited at the idea that his defense is going to help, change the outlook for some pitchers in general, and just having that presence behind the plate, both defensively and at the dish when it comes to, offense, I think is going to go a long way for this team.
I agree. And I don't really have a lot to add to that because Alvarez is great. He's going to be great. This is a good question from Junior, and I'll give it to you, Ibby. What do you guys do once Alvarez comes back at backup catcher, Nido or Torrens? Now, I know this has got a lot of recency bias. I mean, Torrens just hit 2 home runs. Right. So he's automatically a better player than Omar Narvaez ever was as a Met. That is Luis Torrens. But, look, Nido's been really, 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 really good. And
he has been.
Nido's the guy with the inside track, I would say. But, then things come into play like options. Do you want to lose a guy if you can keep both? So I think, I would have to check and see if Tomas Nido still has options. I don't think Torrens does. I think that's part of the reason why the Mets were able to get him, if I'm not mistaken. Or did he have an opt-out? Was he in the minors and he had an opt-out? That's the question. And I can check here in a second. Yeah, because Corey just kind of asked the same thing. Does Nido have an option? I think if one of the guys has an option, the other guy's going to be the backup. I think that's what's going to happen. If neither guy has an option and it's just straight player, I think the Mets are going to keep Nido. I really do. I just think Nido's been their guy. And I think, they have a little bit of, again, I don't want to say loyalty to him, but he's earned it. He has earned it. Torrens had a great game, but, Nido's held down the fort really, really, really well with Alvarez being out. Nobody's Alvarez. Nido's not Alvarez, Narvaez isn't, Torrens isn't. But I think gun to their head, if they have to make a choice, I think it's Nido. I think if there's an option, I think the guy with the option is going to go down.
Yeah, I think whatever favors the Mets in terms of language for contract is what the move would be. I think for now you give the inside track to Nido, but I think it's close. Again, recency bias aside, like you just said, I have liked what I've seen from Torrens to this point. The 2 home runs aside, but other things as well with his limited time that he's been here so far. But like I said, I think language in contract is going to go a long way with that one. But one thing that I did want to bring up, we were talking about June a lot, and this will be one of our things that we get out of here on before I do my on the farm segment. But I wanted to bring up the June schedule, and I wanted to try something real quick because I've never tried this before. So let's see if this works. We're going to go here. We're going to go here, and we're going to go to the standings first. We're going to share. Now, can you see this, John? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's small, but I can see it.
Okay. So I don't know how it looks for others. Like when I make my screen bigger, I can see the whole thing. But just looking at the standings, I think it's interesting as I scroll down. Okay, Mets are 26-35, 426 win percentage, 4 games out. Okay. The one thing that people need to relax on, okay, I don't like staring at these because I still think it's way too early, but 4 games out. It's understanding why things are said the way that they're said when it comes to David Stearns or Carlos Mendoza, when it comes to competing and being in the hunt. Look, we said it at the start of the show. The NL is piss poor in general. They knew that. We said at the start of the season that the NL was going to be a top-heavy league in general because there wasn't a lot of good teams overall. So the wild card was attainable. It's crazy to think that the Mets have played such terrible baseball that they're only 4 games out of a potential playoff spot. But when you look at things, I go, okay, 4 games out. This team, when you look at the schedule, and I'm going to bring up the schedule now too. So we're going to stop sharing this one. And we're going to share the actual. Where we go? We're going to share.
I like that you're trying new things. I didn't even
trying new
know you could
things.
do
It's
that.
something different. I just
Now
learned
people
this
can
the
see
other
my
day.
weird light. Though.
What?
Can see my weird.
I'm going to bring up
my
their
weird
schedule.
hotel light.
We're going to share this. Okay. So that should be up there now too. And yeah, it looks decent. Okay. So we're here and we scroll down. We're seeing what, we got the Phillies in London. You got a break. You got the Marlins. You got the Padres. You got the Rangers. You got the Cubs. You got the Yankees for 2. You got the Stros. Okay. Some easy teams, some rough games as well. Okay. Depending on where you're playing these games as well. But I look at this and I look at where this team is at the moment. I broke it down to where if this team went all out, meaning they go all out and they go and say they win 16 games and lose 8. Now, I did that number based off of the idea of them sweeping the Nationals, sweeping the Marlins, and then either splitting or taking the series against everyone else. Now, if that was to happen, which I think is pie in the sky, I really do. I think it's pie in the sky with where this pitching is, where this bullpen is. I'm not sitting here saying that that's what's going to happen. That is what I think is the top. If they were able to go 16-8, that would put them at 42 wins and 43 losses, which based off of where the chase is right now, going into July, that would put them really in the thick of it in terms of that third wild card, if not at the top of that spot based off of how it looks at the moment. I don't think, and I'm not going to sit here and say that is what is going to happen, but I think Mets fans getting an idea of what the schedule looks like and the teams that are on it and what this team is playing like, you get a better idea of how well they're going to have to play to truly get back into this overall mix.
Yeah. I think when it kind of doesn't fly in the face, but it kind of goes along with what I was saying earlier, where, they had this really bad stretch and now they have a stretch of games where there are theoretically more winnable games than losable games. But now they have to take care of business, right? And look, they're playing great right now against a bad Nationals team. If they play like they're playing right now, Ibby, against most of these teams, they are going to win more games than they lose. Can they win more games than they lose to the tune of 16-8 over the course of a month?
The bullpen just said, "Hold my beer," by the way.
Oh, Jesus, what happened?
No. I'm just saying, like, you say that. I'm saying the bullpen would be like, "Here, hold my beer." And then they would just go on and blow the game.
I thought you meant like right now in this game.
No.
How's that possible? But yeah, so like there are real issues, right? Especially when you play some of those better teams. You play, Texas, you play the Phillies, you play the Yankees, you're going to have to be really, really tight. The odds of you going up, 7-0 on one of those teams, like anything can happen, but that's not going to be the norm. A game like today is not going to be the norm. You're going to have to win a game 3-2. You're going to have to win a game, 9-8, in a slugfest. Like you're not going to win against some of these really good teams the way that you're winning against the Nationals today. So, I think when that's why you have to temper expectations, but that's why I still feel okay because of the mathematical situation that they're in. And again, it's not even necessarily anything the Mets are doing, but I feel okay because of where they're currently sitting, because they don't have to make up all that ground this month. They just have to not be as bad this month so they can not be as bad next month. And you know what I mean? Like you can get it back. I don't want to say inch by inch because they've dug themselves a pretty big hole, but you don't need to try to get it all back in June. You just need to be better than you were. Do they need to be 16-8? That would be lovely. They don't need to be 16-8. They need to be better than they were. Is I don't know, 12 wins good enough? 14 wins good enough? You know what I mean? Like I don't know. But I know that they need to be better than they were, and I think it's possible. But I do agree, 16-8 would be wonderful, but I think 16-8 is probably a little far-fetched.
I agree. I was just saying that in general too, that for this team to really change the narrative, which is them playing out of their minds. With Rosie K here coming and saying the Mets would have to play out of their minds to get the front office not to sell. I think that die has been cast, and I agree. I still think this team is looking at the idea of being a seller at the deadline as things stand at the moment. If they go on and do this crazy thing that they think that they can do in June, and then July comes and now you're going week by week to see what you're going to do, I still think this team is a sell as opposed to a buy. But I just, again, like we said at the start, I want to watch better baseball. Get me to not have the game be background music. Keep me engaged. This has me engaged. Offense has me engaged. Okay. Getting the bullpen in order is going to go a long way. Edwin Diaz is back on the mound for Brooklyn tomorrow, Thursday. We'll see what happens there and how he ends up progressing and when he's going to find his way back to Queens. We'll see what happens there. So there are things in motion, things that we're going to have to keep an eye on that are going to be interesting. But, getting that bullpen in order is going to be one of the biggest things, especially if this offense has decided to take a turn.
The one thing I'll disagree with Rosie's point here that you pulled up before, I do think, yes, the Mets will have to play out of their minds to get the front office to not sell. I do agree with that first part. The second part I disagree with. I don't think the die has been cast. The reason why I say that is, again, one, it's still very early. The Mets basically have 2 months to decide if they're going to sell or not. Ibby, I don't think the Mets have any, and I tweeted something about this earlier, I don't think the Mets have any pieces like they did last year that were so obvious to move and move early because it helped the Mets in a multitude of ways. And I mean players like Scherzer and Verlander, guys like that. These guys had a tremendous pedigree, a winning pedigree of both championships and personal accomplishments. And they also had a big contract that the Mets realized this might not work here, so let's try to get out from some of it while also trying to rebuild our farm on the fly. Do the Mets have some enticing pieces? Yeah, they've got Severino, they've got McNeil, they've got JD Martinez. Those guys are on one-year deals. I don't think moving them early is necessarily a priority. I think those guys will be as valuable on the day of the trade deadline, 2 hours before it happens, as they will be 6 weeks before the trade deadline. I don't think anybody is going to come and knock down your door to get JD Martinez on June 15th or July 1st. I don't think anybody is going to come and knock down your door 6 weeks early to get Luis Severino. I don't think that is going to happen. So that's why I disagree. I think the larger point of what Rosie's saying is great. I just don't agree that the die has been cast. And the last thing I'll say about it is what I said earlier, which is the Mets went into this massive slump in May, not in June, not closer to the end of the season, not closer to the trade deadline when they could say, you know what, let's make this call now. I think what happened last year was a perfect storm situation. The Mets had great assets in a seller's market with an owner willing to eat money. This year, they have good assets that any team could kind of come and get that you're not going to get these massive returns for. You're going to get some good pieces. Maybe you get whatever, but I just don't think there's this huge impetus to trade them because at the same time, you don't want to miss an opportunity to get a piece back. But Ibby, what if the Mets play pretty well in June and July and they're in the conversation for a wild card spot? Does it really matter to you if they trade Luis Severino and get one prospect back to what is an already good farm system? Or would you rather just see them keep Severino for the rest of the year and try to make the playoffs?
I mean, I would answer that by saying,
what I mean?
It's always dependent on, it's always dependent on the player. But to your point, I think people need to temper expectations when it comes to returns. I think Sevy is the one where you can actually get something decent. But
Sevy and JD Martinez are the two guys.
But to keep things all proper, I think that Mets fans in general need to that want to sell, and I still think this team will sell. But the ones that are really pushing for the sell need to understand that you're getting things to better your overall depth when it comes to your farm system. I don't think you're going to be getting even players that you got last year, and that being the Acuñas of the world. You're not getting Gilbert. You're not getting Clifford, you might be able to pull back amongst all the people that could get dealt. You might be able to pull amongst all of those. If you develop at the same time, which has been the Mets' problem, you could develop and create something out of someone that you do get. I don't think you're going to be getting a top flight prospect anymore. I don't.
And the depth is important, right? Having a deep farm system is important. We watched, like, that's how teams make trades because their farm system is deep compared to the Mets, which was shallow. That's why they always ask for the better player from the Mets because it's not ranked as high, blah, 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 blah. But you said it, and Ant Rivera nails it when he says no one coming back is moving the needle for the future. And I think that's my larger point. Now, look, if the Mets, because I want to be perfectly clear here, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I want to be very clear. If the Mets have a June like the July that they, a June like the May that they had, and it's very clear that they're not going anywhere, then I agree with you. I agree with anybody. Trade all the spare parts, anything that's not nailed down. Everybody on a one-year deal. You trade Manaea, you trade Quintana, regardless of what you can get for them. You trade JD Martinez, you trade Severino, you trade anybody you want that's on a one-year deal. You could even trade Harrison Bader. You could do whatever you want. If they're not going to win, it doesn't matter. I just think it gets complicated if you look up here in a month and a half and the Mets are, I don't know, let's say within 2 or 3 games of 500 on either side, right? 2 games under, 2 games over, whatever, somewhere in that range. And maybe they're 2 games out of a wild card spot, or maybe they're in the 3rd wild card spot with the opportunity to move up. At that point, I'm not selling, and I don't care. And this is where I think the narrative gets muddied, where people are like, well, if they're not going to win a World Series, what does it matter? It matters. It matters to a team to try to win. It matters to put players in a position where they get experience playing in the playoffs and they have opportunities to go out there and do that so that when they are expected to do a lot of things like they were 2 years ago, they don't fold up as quickly. So I think these things always matter. And that's why I think the die has not been cast, to just use that same wording, that same verbiage. That's why I just think it's too early to say that, because they're still, even though they're 9 games under, they're still too close to just say, let's just trade everybody because we don't think we're going to win a World Series. And I know that Arizona, again, had that miracle run last year, and the Mets don't really have the pitching that Arizona and the Phillies have had when they went on these runs. I understand that we don't expect that, but nobody would have expected it from the Phillies. Nobody would have expected it from Arizona. They still got there. They still did it. Do I think that's likely? I don't. But I do think getting in is the most important thing, because once you get in, who knows? Who knows?
Right. And for me, I think this might put the buy sell to bed for a little bit, because if they can at least play competent baseball throughout the month of June, which we hope that they can continue doing, and it's not just the Nats, that it'll be able to put a focus back on what's going on the field, as opposed to guessing what might happen off of the field. Because let's be honest, the last 3 weeks or so have been more so about buy sell, where this team is going, and the change needs to happen. And look, a lot of those things still apply, and they're not going to go anywhere unless this team goes out there and wins ball games. That's what it's about. You got to go out there, you got to win. So I think the best thing that we can do is just, as we always do as Mets fans, watch the games, see what happens, and then when we come back here on Wednesday, we'll break it all down and figure out what the next what the next move is, what the next call up might be, or what have you. But at least we've seen some good. That's what makes me happy. We've seen some good over the last handful of days that shows some life, which I hadn't seen in previous weeks, which is it's a breath of fresh air.
I know we're over an hour and a half, so I don't want to get into too many other things, because I know you want to touch on the farm really quick, but I do want to ask you this question that Armand brought up. I don't think it's that much of a conversation, which is why I think it's okay to bring up.
Yeah.
How much do you think Cohen has to eat of Marte's contract to trade him? So Starling Marte has $19.5 million on the books next year, and whatever's left this year, the prorated money this year, right? So basically, let's say half of that. So he's got about 27, $29 million on the books left, somewhere in that range. How much of that money knowing that he's still a productive offensive player, has taken a major step back defensively, how much do you think you'd have to eat to trade him to a team?
A little over half.
I think so too.
A little over half. Yeah, that's what I think. I think it's cut and dry. A little over half. And depending on the team to get rid of him, yes, in a heartbeat.
I actually think, unlike the Jeff McNeil contract, which is longer,
in a heartbeat,
I think it makes a ton of sense to eat half of that money so that you can get out from under him. And what I would do, Ibby, is I would put, I know this is just an accounting thing, but I would put most of half of that money on the books for this year from a Cohen accounting perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would kick the salary in for next year. Of course, you have to do that, but I would almost like prepay it, if you will, so that I could say, like, I don't really want to have to deal with Starling Marte's money next year. That's what I would try to do. Like, I would try to say, like, you know what? I'll pay you all of his contract. Basically, you guys pay him for the rest of this year, and I will pay him for all of next year. So it's a wash, like, so that the money's just gone. You know, and I would do that because I think he's productive enough for somebody else that you could get out from under that deal. So I agree with you. I think it's just about half.
A little over half. And one final thing before we get out of here, I just wanted to bring up some things that are going on down on the farm. And a guy that's, you know, it's really becoming, it's not even so much on the farm anymore. It's becoming the Brandon Sproat show. That's what this essentially is, because this is like the third week in a row that I'm adding him onto here. Brandon Sproat, his last start, 7 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts, which was a career high. He had a 38.6 chase and swing rate, a 49% whiff rate. He had 24 whiffs. He's got a 1.23 ERA and a 32.1 K percentage over all of his starts in single A and double A. He looks like the real deal, folks, and it's exciting to see, and they're pushing him along. And I think that was three starts in a row. He went 7 innings, and we're so used to seeing guys go out there and pitch 4, maybe 5 innings. He's gone 3 starts in a row of 7 innings. He touched triple digits. It's exciting to see. You see the progressions he's making from single A to double A. He's getting better. You're seeing the progressions that Blade Tidwell has made as well. We know Christian Scott's got sent down, but he'll be back up again soon. So again, you can see a little bit of a future there when it comes to, you know, developing pitching, where you might be able to see Blade Tidwell, Brandon Sproat, and Christian Scott all in the same rotation. And then you can go out there and pick some other guys off the wire as well in free agency to try to fill out a much needed rotation that goes beyond just the 1-year deals like this one has at the moment. But that's what we have down on the farm. We also have one with AJ Ewing, but that's much further down the road. It's just good to see that these guys are getting pushed along. He was kicking ass down at the Florida Complex League, and he's got 5 home runs, 14 RBIs, 24 walks, 6 steals with a 993 OPS. So he's moved up to high A now. Hopefully he can keep those progressions going as well. That's another second baseman in the system, lefty. Very sweet swing, got some power to him as well. So Mets are flush when it comes to the up the middle type of talent. We'll see which ones eventually end up helping this team. Oh, Armand, thank you for that. I did not see that. I saw you hit a bomb the other day. I did see that one. I did not know that from today. So good stuff from Ryan Clifford. Love it.
Yeah, you know, look, when you look at, you know, obviously the position players, everybody keeps talking about the position player prospects, and with good reason. It was thought that they were going to be way ahead of the starting pitching prospects. Now it seems like the starting pitching prospects are a little bit better than maybe they were given credit for. Obviously, you know, because the returns we've seen, you know, whether it's at the minor league level or it's been here at the major league level with Scott and things like that. But it is just nice to see the Mets being aggressive with these prospects, promoting them. You know, it looks like they are developing them better than they have in a very long time, and that speaks volumes to what Stearns has been able to do. And so, you know, look, Ibby, even if the Mets go out and sign, let's just say Corbin Burns, right? The Mets go out, they sign Corbin Burns, they have Senga coming back. The Mets are going to need Scott, Sproat, Scott, and whoever. Like, they're going to need some of these guys to fill out the rotation. You know, I'm not sure, you know, where David Peterson's going to be. I don't really love him. I'm not sure where Tyler McGill is. I like him better, but I still don't know. You know, I'm not sure where some of these players, Jose Buto, where they actually fit in. you're going to need some of these younger guys to start to step up, right? Maybe McGill is a relief pitcher. Maybe Peterson's off the team. Maybe Buto's in the rotation. Maybe there's some other combination or iteration of that works. But, you are going to need these young guys to come up and pay dividends. It looks like, Hamill and Vassell are not really all that good because guys keep passing by them like they stopped. So, look, it's always encouraging. It's just on the minors. It's just down on the farm, but it's always encouraging to see these guys, playing well, performing well, earning call-ups and, not to the majors, but to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. That's what you want to see. You really don't want to see any of these guys, flounder or peter out, because then what you wind up with is, you get the Brett Beatties of the world. You get a guy that's like, okay, how good is he really? I don't know. So
one thing I just had to bring up real quick because I'm enjoying the fact that I know how to share screens now and stuff, but just seeing this isn't even Met related. This is just baseball related. I just got this update from Jeff Passan on a retweet. This is Paul Skeens, and we all know who Paul Skeens is throwing against the great Shohei Ohtani. 101. 101. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. That is, again, this is a Mets show, but still, that just seeing stuff like that is just really freaking cool to me. And that's wild to see him just go out there and just toy with them and just say, hey, here's my fastball. Go ahead and hit it. So that's baseball. But in general, hey, LGM, as always, thankful for John for being able to be here. We had a great show. I know we got some comments that were left here saying how we had a good show. I appreciate all of you that are here. Fantastic show. Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate it. And again, shout out to John over there for being on the other side of the world in the morning, a day ahead, being able to jump on here, talk some Mets at 2:00 in the morning on the other side of the world. That's love. Okay, I'm feeling it. Our Metsies are feeling it, of course. The people that join this chat are feeling it. If you haven't already, 190 of you are here. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We're pushing for 800 subs soon. We do have some cool giveaways that I am going to start rolling out soon. Probably when we get closer to 800, I'll start rolling that one out because I think a lot of people will like this one. So let's get there. Sub the channel, like the video, tell your friends. Till Mets do us part. Always having fun every single Wednesday. John, take it away.
Listen, you said everything, and I appreciate that because I'm tired. You said it's 2:00 in the morning. Well, now 2:00 has become 3:18 a.m. I will say this: I know Stephanie is out in London. I think there's a couple other folks who listen to the show, watch the show. They're out in London. I love London. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. If you've never been or whatever the case may be, let me know if you want to reach out on Twitter. I've got some really good recommendations for food and for drinks if you're a person who enjoys an adult beverage and stuff like that. And also, there's a lot of touristy things to see. It can be kind of overwhelming. It's kind of visiting London's kind of like visiting New York in that, you want to do everything. And obviously my taste is not everybody's taste, but I've done a lot of the touristy things there too. And I have a pretty good idea of what people might enjoy more if you have to pick and choose. So that said, the London Underground, the Tube, is so much more efficient than the New York City subway. It's fucking embarrassing. So while you're over there, enjoy the fact that, especially after you get used to it, maybe it's a little confusing at first, but once you realize how it works, it is so much more efficient. It is so much better. And you're going to go back to New York, you're going to get on the subway, and you're going to be like, I don't understand why there's no train, besides the one shitty one that connects Brooklyn and Queens, even though they're touching each other. I don't know why I have to go into Manhattan every time I want to go to Queens. I don't understand why, but you know what? Anyway, I digress. Yeah, Stephanie's saying the Underground was easy for me today. It's very, 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 very easy. And she said, send me all the food and drink recs. I have the touristy shit planned out. So perfect. I will send you some of those recs. But if you're out there, enjoy London. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful place. Being there in the summer is better than being there in the winter because it's cold. So fucking cold in the UK. Anyway, that said, we should get out of here. It is Yes, I will try to show you guys some more sand dune sliding. Go for it. We'll see if I can do it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. As always, Ibby said all the important stuff. Shout out to John Mancone, Brella Sports Network. Couldn't do it without you guys. The audio version of the show, if you missed anything, will drop in a couple hours after we're done here. I don't have to do it, so that's fine. It means it'll actually get done. I never do it. Shout out to Olivia who does, but I just mean if you thought I was going to stay up and do it, you'd be wrong. And if you missed anything, you can watch the entire replay of the show on our YouTube channel, which will live forever and ever and ever. And Junior Swingman, John, more fights with WFAN personnel, please. I got to be honest, Junior. I think he doesn't think so because he's an idiot, but I think I may have crushed him with my latest response because he's an idiot. So I think he's done. I think he is done because he is uncreative and the worst person on the radio, and I don't mind saying that. So anyway, Ibby, sorry.
All good.
I'm John. That's Ibby. This is Till Mets Do Us Part, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.